gotta tell you, I was undone because I couldn't believe how incredibly thoughtful and connected those doctors and nurses became with him and with us and with me, especially because I was the one that was constantly making sure that he was okay. So one of my prayers during that time was that he would get to know God's love deeply, deeply, and that he would get to know the love of his family just as deep. And so it was really fun watching my daughter's visits. You know, they took and they put up pictures of the family so he wouldn't feel alone. And it was a beautiful time, even though it was a very, very hard time, it was a roller coaster time, right? It was, and for people who've had relatives or even people that they love that are sick in those last stages, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult journey. But I remember distinctively that I was sitting in a room with him, and he was in that catatonic state at the end. And I was reading something, and I recalled that I looked up and I looked at him, and I said, wow, God, it is so peaceful in this room. It's so peaceful in this room. It's just like my house. It's so peaceful. And I remember that when he passed and we walked into his room and sat there for a little bit, and my parents joined us. Probably an hour later, my father looked at me. He goes, wow, it's so peaceful in this room. And that was God. You know, his presence was so tangible in that room. So tangible. Sometimes we think that when people are at their end state or when they're very sick like that, we wonder where God is, and he's there. He's just there. He's with them, and he becomes very tangible, and he becomes a great comfort, especially to the person that's suffering, that's going through. My husband and I were on our way to go see him, and we knew that he had very little time. As a matter of fact, we were very surprised he didn't pass that night. And I remember that we were worshiping in the car. We were worshiping. It was really cool. And when we got to the nursing home, my sister called me. We were at the elevators ready to go up, and she says, Roz, he passed away 20 minutes ago. And we just looked at each other because we were like, we were praising and worshiping. I mean, we felt the presence of God in that car at the same time that his dad passed. At the same time. I remember that my husband went into the room, and he knew that his father was still able to see us. And he said, Dad, you made it. You made it. I'll see you one day in heaven. And he just started worshiping God. Started worshiping God. It was intense. It's really intense. I remember when we were burying him, and I hadn't cried because I was trying to keep it together, you know. And I don't know, I'm getting emotional. And I remember as they were putting him down in the ground, right, I said, I remembered those words that I had told him in the hospital. I'm going to be with you. And I knew in my heart I was saying, I'm going to be with you to the very end. And I was. And that's when I finished my assignment, you know. Sometimes we write people off, and rightfully so, right? Because they've done something that was extremely, extremely hurtful and painful. But what I learned during that journey that we took together is that God has the ability, he's more than capable, as a matter of fact, of healing the wounds that are deep within our heart, for us to move forward and for us to truly love people for just who they are, right? There were certain areas that he didn't change. because he wasn't capable of at that point in time. But I accepted him for who he was, a recluse, you know, a hermit, a cantankerous little old man. I accepted him for that, and I loved him. I loved him with all my heart, you know, during that time. God gave me the ability to love him, to forgive him. God gave my husband, who was hurt so deeply by him, the ability to love him, to treat him like a king, to be a son to him. It was amazing. And so why do I share this? Because forgiveness is so important in God's kingdom.